All right, so I'm going to talk to you today about the narcissist in court. And I want to first start off this by saying that I'll use myself as an example just so that I'm not telling anyone else's private stories. But I can tell you that where my divorce story was extreme, it wasn't unique. When divorcing a narcissist, the things that I encountered, I heard lots of people, I mean, lots and lots of people that talk to me have also encountered. And so by sharing my story, it's many stories and probably has similarities to your story too. Okay. Where I was really behind the 8 ball was I didn't know, first of all, I didn't know anything about narcissism. I fell really into every trap because I was in love with my husband. I didn't want a divorce. So I was completely sideswiped. He really got me when I was really vulnerable. I had just had a major health crisis when he sprung this all on me. And he had done, like, sabotaged my friendships and infiltrated my family relationships and did all this stuff. And I was the last to know. So when he left me, I was the last to know that this was all coming down the pike. So it was really, really bad for me. And so I was heartbroken, I was betrayed, I was surprised, I was super vulnerable because I was really, I had literally almost, well, I did die. I actually died, had a near-death experience. And so, I mean, it was a really terrible, terrible time for him to do it. And of course, that's when he'll do it. He'll do it when kick you when you're down. I just did not see this coming. I was married forever. I was not going to get a divorce. This is just, I couldn't believe that it was happening. Just like I said, I didn't know anything about narcissism. I believed everything that he was saying. I was super protective of him. And, I had a lifelong pattern of, not telling private secrets to other people, so I wasn't confiding in friends. I didn't have anybody that I was talking to about anything because I was thinking that he was going through something and I didn't want, and that we were going to get through it, and that I didn't want people to think badly of him when it was all over, and it's all this stuff. And so basically this video is about how not to become his accomplice in your own undoing, because that's exactly what I was. I was his best accomplice in my own undoing. But I can tell you this, that I did learn from it, and I was able to at least put into practice the things that I learned, because as you know, they do Hoover, and one form of Hoovering is, the main Hoovering that we talk about is when they come back and they try and get you back into a relationship with them. But another form of Hoovering is that they will just come back and take you to court, stir up court stuff. And so he did do that, and up until 2011, the last time I was in court with him was in 2011. And I will say we were in a year-long custody battle again that year, and my kids by this time were teenagers. So that when this first started happening, they were 4 and 6, and now they were 14 and 16. It was 10 years later. And when we went through the last time I was in court, and that time I knew all this stuff that I'm telling you, and I put it all into practice, and he did not win a single battle. In my divorce, though, it was a slam dunk. He won every single thing. I mean, it was really, really bad. I came out of there I had a lawyer look it over when it was all over with, and he said he didn't know how I could have done any worse if I'd never had a lawyer at all. He said it was just incredible how, because there was no stone unturned. There was nothing he would stop. There was no, he had no limitations on what he would not do. He felt entitled to every single thing. He did not want to leave me with anything. And what I had done to deserve this was really nothing. Once they're ready to discard you, it doesn't matter. You're the enemy. It doesn't matter how loving and loyal and anything you were. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter that you never did anything against them. You're the enemy because you're not with them anymore, and they have to make you into whoever they have to make you into in order to do to you what they want to do. And what they want to do is, take everything from you. And in fact, when I almost died, my husband got in his mind that that was what he wanted. He wanted, if I died, he would end up with all of our assets, with a lot of sympathy from everybody. That would be perfect. And he could just go on with, and he wouldn't have, he could go on and he could tell whatever story he wanted to about his life to whatever the next person was. He could have all of our assets, all of our friends, and a bunch of sympathy, right? So he said that was the goal. That became the goal, was to get out of it with that. And so if I didn't die, if he couldn't get me to off myself, or if he couldn't, you know, and believe me, he gave me so much stress that he was hoping I would have another heart attack, or I would kill myself, or run off, or, you know, do something to myself. But if I didn't do that, he still wanted to do whatever he could to end up with that outcome, as close to that as he could get. And you know what? He did pretty darn well, and he got pretty darn close. And the only thing that he couldn't get, the only thing he didn't succeed in, was getting my kids away from me, and you know, coming in between my children and me. And so that's why I say that now that my son died, it's a victory for him. That is ultimately, that is what it is seen as. My son dying is seen as, she lost him after all. It's sick to say, but that is exactly what I believe, that not only my husband, but also my parents believe, is that it's a victory for them that I've lost my son. So that's really, really sad. And twisted and everything else. Okay, so back to the divorce. So it's going to be different for everybody depending on where you are in the game. If you're here watching this video, you are light years ahead of where I was. So that's already a good thing. Okay, know this right off the bat. Know that family court is not, it's not around justice. It's not around protecting the kids. It's not around getting to the truth. That is not what it's about. It is really built to the lowest denominator, and it is built for narcissists. It really is. And in my experience, based on, I swear there were times when I was in court when it seemed like everyone there was a narcissist except for me. I mean, it seemed like my lawyer, his lawyer, the judge, the guardian ad litem, everybody seemed to have a narcissist, seemed to be doing something with their own ego involvement that was not focused around what was best for the kids. The other thing to remember is that they are going to love it. That you're not both that your goals and your interests are not at all shared. If you're in court with a narcissist, this is what makes it so uniquely different from any other kind of divorce. You know, and also put out of your mind whatever your friends are telling you about an amicable divorce. You know, because if you go in there thinking that you have these high ideas about how you're going to have this amicable divorce, doing the best what's best for the kids, which is completely what I wanted. First of all, I was just having to come to terms with the fact that I was getting divorced at all. I was trying to do everything in my powers to save my marriage, and wasting tons of my energy on something that was completely futile. You know, he was giving me just the breadcrumbs to think that there was some chance of saving this marriage, which was completely hopeless. He was well on his way out before I even had any inclination of what was going to be happening. There was never any chance of us saving our marriage, but he kept stringing me along. And only one good thing came of that stringing along process, and that was that I got this diagnosis. I got his diagnosis of his cluster B antisocial personality disorder, comorbid with narcissistic personality disorder. And I got a written diagnosis of that only because he had me believing that we were trying to save our marriage and we were going to counseling. And in truth, what he was really trying to do was he was trying to get some incriminating evidence against me that he could use in court, because he must have really believed that he really must have believed that he was going to be able to prove something against me, and that he was superior mentally or something, because he really did go to court, and he was very open in these therapy sessions. And not only was it one therapist, but there was actually a second therapist too. Because after the first therapist gave us, we went there for 6 months, he gave us this formal written diagnosis. And of course, my husband was angry. He wasn't even angry at the diagnosis. He was angry that he didn't get what he needed for court. So he took me to another place, another person, who was someone that his mother knew. They had done some like family kind of thing, he thought that this person was going to be on his side because he already knew this person, had been there with his family a few times, and so he already thought that he had an in with this person. And so we went there for, I think, just 1 or 2 sessions, and this person contacted me afterwards and said, you know, are you alone? And I said, yes. She said, you need to get out of this relationship and never look back. I'm afraid you're going to end up dead. So that was the second person. And get this, I didn't even take this written diagnosis, and I had that warning, and I still didn't pay any attention to it. I still stayed in the marriage, trying to, you know, still stuck with it, and never even shared that stuff in the divorce with anybody. So, you know, I was pretty far gone in my own delusions, my own magical thinking, and my gullibility and all that. So I was, you know, you're not there, thank goodness. Okay, so start with the fact that you're gonna hate it. You're gonna be hating it because it's stressful. You're not built for it. You're gonna be worried about your kids. It's gonna be really bad for the kids, and that's gonna be your primary concern. So it's going to be very difficult for you because you're not built for it, and it's bad for the kids, and that's your primary concern. And also, it's going to be devastating to you because he is going to be coming in there lying about you, saying all these things that are not true. And it's going to hurt your feelings, and you're going to be heartbroken all over again every time that he does it, because here's this person that you loved. And I'm sorry, he or she, when it comes to the divorce, especially when I talk about divorce situations, because I've only got divorced once, and it was such a profound experience in my life, and obviously I was divorcing a man, so I get into I do get really gender biased when I'm talking about, but believe me, I know this goes both ways, because my ex-husband is now married to a woman who did the same exact thing to her husband. I mean, and they did it like back to back. As soon as they got done with me, they went and did it to her husband, and I read the divorce through, and it sounded just as ugly and nasty, and took just as long. Had the same lawyer, the whole thing. They did it together, and you know. So I know. So my ex-husband is now married to a woman who's just like him. Nothing like me at all. Just like him, and so I know that it can go both ways, and I have almost equal. I have a mother and a father. They're both narcissistic, so I know it can go with both. I have a few more because I just happen to have. I have a brother, and I had a husband, so there's a couple more on that side. But my brother's wife was also narcissistic, and on it goes. They're just narcissists all around me in my life because I was born into a narcissistic family, and then it just expanded from there. I chose a sociopathic husband. My brother became a narcissist. He chose a narcissistic wife, and it just went on and on until I figured it out, until I broke the cycle. And that didn't even happen. That didn't even end here. I had one more relationship before I was done with Narcissists. I still had one more relationship to go, and that was during this divorce. I got love bombed by a lawyer, one of my lawyers, and started a relationship with him. And that relationship lasted about 2 years, and he broke up with me just basically before the ink was even dry on my divorce, and it was just devastating, just absolutely devastating. So that also contributed to what was so bad about my divorce. It was just, so another cautionary tale is to please be very, very careful with who you get involved with while you're going through the stressful time of this divorce. Until you get the chance to really heal yourself emotionally, I would not recommend dating anybody. As much as, if it was to go great and right, and, then it might be, then you'd have like emotional support and some help. But it's just too much of a risk until you really have worked on yourself, and you know how you ended up in this relationship, and you've healed some of that. the chances of you getting into another relationship with another problematic person are really, really high. And while you're going through this divorce, you do not need to be having another heartache on top of it, compounding it. And, you know, that was just really devastating for me. Okay, so we start off with that. We start off with the fact that this is going to be terrible for you. You're going to hate it. You're not built for it. And a lot of ugly things are going to happen that are not based on the truth, not based on justice, not based on what's best for your kids. So if you go in like I did with the idea that, oh, the law will protect me, it's a community property state, he knows that I'm a good person, I'm my children's mother, you know, he's going to want to be fair. If you live with any of these thoughts, or even if he doesn't want to be fair, that the court's going to protect me, the laws are going to protect me, the truth will set me free. If you go through with any of these thoughts, you're going to be up for a rude awakening because it just doesn't work like that. I will say, you know, I actually went through a criminal case at the same time, and that was actually more true in the criminal case. When it comes to criminal court, it really is a lot more based on hard evidence. But in family court, it is really based on the power of perceptions. And I really underestimated the power of perceptions. I thought, well, what really matters is evidence and facts. That's what really matters. No, not in family court. Not in family court at all. Most important things are this. Okay, so he's going to try and frame you because that's just what they do. He's going to try and make you look bad. And so, and you know, this is just purely going on by the fact that this person is a narcissist. So we already know things right off the bat. We already know that they don't have empathy. We already know that they want to win. We already know that they, you know, they have a sense of entitlement. We already know. So there's some things we already know right off the bat. And so, which gives you a huge advantage over, say, what happened to me. Okay. 2 of the most important things that I can tell you to do right off the bat. 1, stay calm. Stay very, very calm. Because there's a couple really popular lies that they like to tell. And one of them is that you're crazy. Some kind of some kind of crazy that, and so you just don't want to look crazy. You don't want to look hysterical. You don't want to look anything like what they're trying to make you look like. And here's the thing too, is that he is going to be cool as a cucumber. So it will be, if you're starting to look crazy, and you're going to feel crazy because things are happening that are threatening your kids, your well-being. That's also not going to bother him. This is the other reason he's built for it and you're not. Because he's going to love it. He's going to love all the attention. He's going to love all the chaos. He's going to get lots of narcissistic supply from even the negative stuff that goes on there. He's going to love it. He's going to love all that drama. But the other thing is, he's not worried about your kids. And so your concern is with the kids. His isn't. And so, or hers isn't. If you're the man. A person who's concerned for the kids does not go through a divorce this way. A person whose concern is for the kids tries to reach a fast resolution and tries to be safe and tries to have peace and all of that. A person whose concern is for the kids is the one that's having an amicable divorce like your friends were talking about, but that's not you. Okay? So a person who is in court with all systems go, with lawyers and the whole thing, is not doing what's best for the kids. We know that right off the bat. First of all, they're going to spend their kids' probably college tuition money just getting this divorce unnecessarily. Bottom line is that when you're in custody battle with a person with a personality disorder, what you know already is that it's not about them wanting custody of the kids. And of course, you are, again, light years ahead of me, the fact that you're even here learning about narcissistic personality disorder, and you know that that's who you're dealing with before you're going to court. That is just, you are so far ahead of the game. You're going to be able to avoid 90% of the problems that I had just with that knowledge alone. Because I fell into all the traps of believing what he was saying, believing his concerns, trying to actually respond to these fake, false concerns and all this stuff, and believing that he was really trying to, when he told me that he was trying to save our marriage, believing all these different lures that he was throwing at me, and you know, taking his side and not using the things that I had against him in court, you know, because I was protective of him and not wanting to fight dirty and all this kind of stuff. And so I was basically, I was trying to have this amicable divorce with a narcissist who was having a covert and nasty divorce with me. And so I was, you know, I was just a lamb led to the slaughter, where I lost everything the first time around. I did not lose a single battle the second time around. I had learned a lot, and that's what I have to teach you here. I learned what to do. So, you know, you're ahead of the game, just the fact that you know what you're dealing with. You know who your enemy is, and you're not going to be, you know, I was, even after 10 years, I had really no idea at all who he was, and what this was all about. I really didn't. It was just so far away from how my brain thinks that I just couldn't go there. So I didn't know how dangerous he was for the kids. I didn't know how dangerous he was for me. I didn't know how much damage he was doing. I had been so ignored and so neglected for so many years that it really was, I never anticipated that he or my parents would invest so much time in smearing me in the smear campaign. I had no idea that that would ever happen. And so, of course, it really happened really bad. You know, it's just a huge smear campaign, just terrible stuff. But what you need to do, and what I didn't do the first time around, and I did do the second time around, and I already said this one, is stay calm. So that's 1, stay calm. 2 is document everything. Make sure you keep well documented every single thing. Create a paper trail, because he or she, as we're talking about, will lie about everything. So, you know, let's say right here, they will lie, they will cheat, they will steal, they will not honor the law, they will not honor any of the agreements that you have, they will not honor court orders, they will lie in court, they will violate your orders, they will even put in all kinds of, like, they will probably put in restraining orders and violate them themselves. They will steal all of your assets if they can. So the other thing I was going to tell you to do is do not tell them any of your plans ahead of time. Secretly get your plan in order, and do not tell them anything ahead of time. Inform them after the fact as much as you possibly can. I'm not suggesting that you steal or lie or cheat or anything like that, but I am suggesting that you protect your assets as much as you can. Siphon off some money to keep for yourself safe, because guaranteed he will do that if you don't. I did not do any of this, of course, and he left me destitute. And now, as far as lawyers go and all that, I can tell you, I had a lawyer. I wish that I didn't. I had a lawyer that was really not. Okay, this is what I'll say about a lawyer. I'm not suggesting that getting a lawyer is necessarily the right thing to do. It can really backfire on you. And so I would say work with a lawyer if you really feel like you have a good working relationship, if you feel you can trust them, if you feel you feel heard, if you feel that they can maybe possibly understand what a personality disorder is. Those are all big ifs. And if you can afford it, of course. I ended up with an expensive lawyer who didn't help me at all, who didn't work with me like we were on a team. He acted like he hated me almost as much as my ex's lawyer did. It was really bad. And then the second time around, you know, when I did it again years and years later, I got to see what it was like to have a lawyer who was really on my side. And that, you know, was just like night and day. But I would have been better off the first time around to just go in there and be really honest, talk for myself, and stay calm. But I was just so terrified, you know, just so terrified, and it was just such an ugly thing. And of course, at the same time, I'd almost just died, and I was very vulnerable. And then I was being attacked from all sides because my own family had turned against me, and you know, I did not understand how vulnerable I was with. I didn't understand how tenuous all these relationships were at all. And so it was really an incredibly painful and, you know, crazy time. But if you do those things, if you stop giving them information, you document everything, you protect your assets, you stay calm. Do not let him get your goat. Do not let them get you to react badly, especially in a legal situation. And you know, get yourself in any kind of trouble. Don't do anything like that. And honor the visitation. Honor everything to the letter. And work the right angles to try. If you want to get anything shifted, do it through the right angles, because if the court gets any sort of feeling that you are alienating the other parent, or you are biasing the kids against the other parent, or you are in any way getting, you know, disturbing that relationship, it'll really come down against you hard. So you do not want to do that. You want to look like you are, you know, that you're being pro-children, you know, putting the children first. And you know, as I said, you will be the only one doing that, because really no one else is doing that. And I'll do another episode on how to talk with the kids, how to deal with the kids about it. But just, it's going to be really, really hard for you, because it is so hard on the kids. And that's going to bother you, and it's not going to bother him, or her. Whoever is the narcissist in this thing, it's not going to bother them. They're going to love it, because they get all kinds of narcissistic supply out of this negativity that's going on in court. And that's why they love it so much. That's why narcissists are famous for being serial litigators. And they're famous for being the ones that drag you into court. Every time I had conflicts with my ex for a decade, and not one single time was I the initiator of it. Not one single time. Every single time there was any conflict at all, he initiated it, and I had to defend myself. And he really did have everything biased in his favor all along. The only thing, it was just that the facts were all that there was to protect me. That's the only reason that, I mean, in court, perceptions and everything were in his favor all along, and there was just not, the facts weren't there. And so that barely protected me. But he got a lot of mileage out of just lies and perceptions. And you know, so if anything I can do to help someone else not go through what I went through in court, that, you know, I will do that. And it was so destructive on my kids. I can't tell you that. I mean, those court battles were so hard on my kids. And in particular, the last one, the one that went on for a year when they were teenagers, was very destructive for my kids. The one that was earlier, it went on for a long time, but they were little kids, and he was not so focused on them, because they didn't really have as much of an opinion. Their opinion wasn't really mattering that much in court. When they were teenagers, their opinion mattered a lot, and so he focused a lot on manipulating them. And it was really, really difficult on them, really hard on them. And because, of course, what he had to do, well, you know, I was the one constant that they had, that they could count on. And he had to undermine that. He had to try and undermine that. And you know, temporarily, he did. Temporarily, he got them wondering, got them a little bit doubtful of some things. And in time, you know, we got through that. But that was super destructive, because, you know, kids needed to have one constant. They needed to have one. They needed to know that they had one parent, one person that loved them unconditionally, that they could always count on. And he did his best to undermine that. And ultimately, why I say that with my son dying, it's like they feel they got their victory finally. I really do feel that way, which is really sad. I mean, beyond sad. It's just super sick and twisted. But that's the reality of it. That's the reality of it, because these people do not have a conscience, and they don't have remorse, and they don't feel guilt and all that. So what the actions that they were taking were never protected. And I'm saying they because I'm saying my ex, he was the big one, but the entire extended family, and most in particularly my family, didn't offer my kids the peace and the protection and the security and they didn't offer them what they needed. And so it was just the worst of the worst situation it could be. All kinds of kids go through divorce all the time. Kids go through divorce all the time. It's not destructive like it was in my kid's case all the time. It's not destructive like that very often. This was just absolutely handled the worst possible way that it could have been handled. And I was relatively powerless to do much about it. And that was super scary. So the only thing I could do was love them and try and be the solid thing for them when we were in my time. And so we were healing. It was I had a lot of healing to do in the in the time since that all took place. And that's sort of where we were. But of course, my son had also been doing drugs off and on, so the healing was slower. But yeah, that ultimately, it was a custody battle. It was a custody battle that drove my son to start doing heroin. And so, I do absolutely hold this whole narcissism thing and CPTSD and responsible for my son being gone. I really do. So that's why I take it really, really seriously. So I'm not trying to scare anyone into thinking that that's where your custody battle is headed. But you want to do what you can to get this thing over with quickly, and have as much peace and as much just handle it, get it done quickly as you possibly can. That's really. Just get out and get it over with and get your kids to safety. That's, because they will keep it going as long as they can because they love it, and they will get as nasty as they can because they love it. They don't have any qualms about lying about you. Anything you thought about your love or your, who they used to be is gone, is totally gone. And of course that was something I also didn't know and didn't believe in. And I was even warned that by people who were just normal people who just said, you get into a divorce situation, you won't know who you're dealing with. And I thought, they don't know him. That's good advice. Of course, you know that because you're here learning about narcissistic abuse. So you're, like I said, you're going to be fine. I believe you're going to be just totally fine. You will, but it's been a hard road. So my heart goes out to everybody going through a custody battle right now. But you'll get through it. You will. All right. Thanks a lot. And please, if you have any questions, specific questions for me, please write them below, and I'm happy to answer them for you. And also, you can contact me by my email through my my website, www.eveningransom.com. Okay. Thanks a lot, you guys. I'll talk with you soon. Bye-bye.